Hello and welcome to another episode of Life After Surviving. I'm Verity and it's truly an honour to have you here with me again today. In this episode we are going to be diving into something that in my experience is at the forefront of the healing journey, and that is the community. We have spoken about it before. We have spoken about how two people really helped shape and change my development of healing throughout my journey so far. Whether you survive something life-altering like sepsis, or whether you face the overwhelming of a new diagnosis like type 1 diabetes or Crohn's and colitis, feeling of being alone can often become so all-consuming. You feel like you are this tumbleweed in a desert and there's no one there to help you. There is this strange silence that when it comes to survival, there's an ache that no one, no matter how much they love you, they don't understand. Here is what I've learned, is that sometimes the most profound moments happen when we let ourselves connect with other people who have been through the same sort of experience as us. It doesn't just come from within, it comes from the hands of others and the hearts of those around us. When I was in the depths of recovery, drowning in fear of the uncertainty, it wasn't a therapist or even doctors or my mum who helped me the most. It was the people who I met along the way, those in hospital beds next to me or those on social media. It was the people who understood the pain, who understood the heartbreak and the grief. It was the ones who had lived it too. The people who truly understood were the people who had walked in very similar shoes. They were the people who gave me the courage to move forwards, even if it meant taking 1 step forwards and 3 steps back. They were a constant reminder that I wasn't alone and that no one in this journey is alone. This episode, it's all about how finding your tribe, your community of people who truly see you and who truly understand can be the most healing part of your journey, the most positive. I'm going to share how I found my community, my tribe, how they saved me when I couldn't save myself, and how they helped me see that a future was possible in the depths of feeling impossible. I still remember the quiet moments after I left the hospital, the constant ear ringing of sirens and beeping, and the moments when everyone else's lives and everyone else was just going on with their lives, and I was stuck in limbo. I had survived, but I wasn't living. I'd survived, but at what cost? I wasn't sure who I was anymore, where I wanted to go, the life I wanted to live, or even, in a lot of cases, the life I didn't think I deserved to live. I was adjusting to this new way of existing, and everything about life felt alien and insincere. The physical pain and then the emotional toll. It was overwhelming, and I'd never felt so alone. I remember the days where I'd sit in silence and I'll hold my hands up. I still have those days where I stare out a window questioning whether this is everything that I should have. Is this the way my story is continued? I would stare at the ceiling or out the window and think, whilst the world is moving forwards, I was still stuck in this place that no one could understand. And the worst part about it is I didn't feel like I could talk to anyone. If you know me, then you know that my emotions and my feelings are not something I'm comfortable with. They are something I'm learning to be comfortable with, but they're not something that I'm completely comfortable with. And I felt alone and isolated. I didn't want to burden anyone. And I thought that if I just kept pushing forwards, things would get better. But they didn't. And by things not getting better, I didn't get better. Which means if for you, things you think pushing forwards is going to help you get better, you're not going to get better, because there's so much more to it, because the world doesn't stop for you. And that's okay, because you just have gone down a slightly different path. And actually, you're probably exactly where you need to be. There were days when I felt like I was disappearing, when I blended into the background of my own life. I felt like no one could see me anymore. It's this strange kind of loneliness where you are so present, but this loneliness comes from something that's so life-altering. You feel like you're supposed to be thankful, and you feel like you're supposed to be thankful that you've got another shot at life, or that you should be thankful that you're alive. And sometimes you're not. You don't feel thankful. And sometimes you are. You feel like you're indebted to the world and whoever decided to keep you alive. But it doesn't change the fact that everything feels like it's been ripped apart. What I didn't know was that this isolation, this heartbreak, was the very thing that would lead me to something so beautiful, because it was dark and painful, and it was a dark place that I began to realise I couldn't do this alone anymore. And I think this is something that I want to come from this conversation, where we have honest conversations about the feeling of being alone and how to truly live in a space that doesn't quite feel comfortably enough yours anymore. And in those moments, I began to accept that I needed help, but I didn't necessarily need a therapist or a life coach. I found something so incredible, and that is the power of community. First time I met Nat, was on the set of Make Me Prime Minister. It wasn't at a hospital or a support group or through any shared medical experience. It was in this completely different environment, one I never expected. The moment we started talking, there was something that clicked. Nat is this strong, independent, inspirational person who had also faced unimaginable challenges, and yet here she was, strong and determined and refusing to let her struggles define her. We didn't need to explain every detail of our pain to each other. We just simply understood, and for the first time in months, in years, I wasn't afraid to talk openly about what I was going through. I felt I could admit that I was scared or confused, and she would look back with this sense of compassion just because she understood. And in those moments I knew that I wasn't alone anymore. Josh, I found him through social media in a late night scroll on intensive care, searching for someone or anyone who might get it, and he had been sharing his experiences with type 1 diabetes so openly and so honestly, and something about his world felt like a lifeline. And I say his world because it reminded me that I was still normal, a world where I can still do everything I wanted to do and achieve. And so I reached out, I grew a pair of balls and I messaged, and I never expected that it would turn into talking every day, every night. And I never realised it would feel like real connection or real support. He never tried to offer solutions or try to tell me that it would all be fine and it would all work out. He listened, he agreed, and through that I realised that community isn't about people fixing you, it's about people standing beside you, reminding you that you don't have to carry that weight alone. Over time, I found more people who had been through similar struggles, people who understood that surviving isn't linear. They taught me that it's okay to be weak and it's okay to have bad days and it's okay to ask for help. I'm going to link a few charities down below who are great if you need some advice or you need some help, because sometimes there is only so much a community can do, and sometimes we do need professional help. A third party, someone who doesn't know us, to be able to give us something that we don't know we're missing. And that in itself is perfectly okay too. People in my community didn't try to fix me. They didn't need to. They just showed up, and that was enough in itself. That was the miracle I needed, because sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself or for someone who is healing is to simply just show up. You know, show up for yourself, show up for your friends, show up for some random stranger, because you could be the only light that someone ever sees, and that in itself is a gift. It's in the quiet moments of unconditional support where I found something more powerful than I ever could have imagined. and that's hope. Hope that didn't come from perfection or grand gestures, but from raw, unfiltered reality of life after surviving. I started to realise that community is about more than just sharing your stories or sharing the tough times. It's about celebrating the small victories. It's about calling each other to say, I made it through today, or sending a text saying I'm thinking of you, or this undeniable sense of pride that you have when you look at someone and you know exactly what they've been through, but they've shown you that you can conquer the world. I do it every time I see Nat, because I just look at her and I think, wow, she is just wow. Like, just sending that text saying I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for getting through the day. Proud of you for showing up, even when you don't have all the answers, and letting them know that they are loved just as they are in the whole world and journey that is healing, that you're proud of them and that they are loved. Because sometimes people who are going through a healing journey don't feel that they are worthy of love because they're not whole. And when you're not whole, people feel they need to fill a void, and you don't know what void they need to fill, but they feel like they need to fill something, and they don't. They just need to know that you'll still show up for them even when half of them is missing. There's been a few times where I'd started to let myself be more vulnerable with my little tribe when I was feeling particularly low. The weight of everything had hit me hard, and I didn't know if I really wanted to be here anymore. I didn't know how to get through the next few days or the next few hours, but out of nowhere, my little Nat just would message and say, I'm here for you, I love you. And I can't describe what that means. It wasn't a fix, it didn't take away the pain, but it reminded me that I wasn't alone, that she had gone through this too, that the love, the kind of love that is given so freely without any expectation or any return, the kind of love that heals is all around in the darkest of times. Your tribe is your anchor. They keep you grounded when the waves of life feel too overwhelming. They are your light in the darkest of hours. The gentle reminder that no matter how heavy the world gets or how heavy the journey feels, you don't have to carry it alone. I look back now, I realise that I'm not just a survivor of sepsis or of type 1 diabetes, but I'm a survivor of the fear, the isolation, the loneliness, the grief that once held me so captive. And the reason I'm here, standing here today, sharing my story, is because of this beautiful, unbreakable community that I have found. The reason I'm sharing my story with you today is because you are beautiful and unbreakable, and we will build a community in itself where this is a safe space. If you don't feel like you have a community, you have one with us, because I never want anyone to feel they are so isolated and alone in this world, because you're not. I want to encourage you to look around, to find your people and allow yourself to be vulnerable, allow yourself to be seen, to allow yourself to be seen, to be loved, to be held, to be lifted. Your tribe is waiting for you, be it here or somewhere else. And I promise you, they are just as important to your healing journey as everything else. In the next episode, we are going to explore the importance of self-compassion and why being kind to yourself is essential in this journey. Until then, remember, you are worthy of being loved. You are worthy of connection. You are worthy of a life that you once felt was so far out of reach. But most importantly, you are not alone in this, and you are allowed to ask for help. Thank you for being here today. Your tribe is out there, and they are waiting to walk with you, because you are here, and that is an achievement in itself.